Okay, go ahead. Do not look at the camera. Everybody look at the speaker on.
What? We Zionists from all over the world are assembled here at the most momentous time in world history. When the Second World War is over, with the total victory of the free nations over world tyranny. We are proud of the fact that 1 million Jewish soldiers on land and sea and the air took part among all the Allied armies in this great battle, and the Jewish units from the Jewish homeland and the Jewish brigade fought on all, but we Jews cannot rejoice. We Zionists from all over the world are assembled here at the most momentous time in world history. The Second World War is over, with a complete victory of the free nations over tyranny. And the best of the United Nations are trying to found a new world order based on peace, justice, security, and freedom, prosperity for all. We are proud of the fact that 1 million Jewish soldiers in all the Allied armies and Jewish units in the Jewish brigade from the Jewish homeland fought under the Jewish flag this battle of liberty. But we Jews cannot rejoice like other peoples. For us, it is the most tragic moment in our history. We heard here reports from the few remnants from Poland and other countries of 6 million Jews slaughtered and burned alive in cold blood. We are proud to hear that few young Jewish boys and girls fought without weapons against the Nazi enemy. But we are faced with the fact that more than a third of our people was exterminated in this war. And unless now, after a complete victory of the peace-loving people, we'll try to do justice also to the Jewish people, try to eradicate the root of the age-long Jewish tragedy, and we were slaughtered only because we happen to be the only homeless and stateless people in Europe and in the world. And no justice will be done to the 6 million dead and to our martyred people throughout history. Only the root cause of our tragedy is removed, and the homeless and stateless Jewish people will be restored to its ancient homeland, and Eretz Israel, Palestine, will be re-established by all the United Nations and the mandatory power of England as a free Jewish commonwealth where all inhabitants will be and a free. We Zionists from all over the world are assembled here at the most momentous time in world history. The Second World War is over with a complete victory of the free United Nations over tyranny. And the best peoples throughout the world are attempting to found a new world order based on peace, security, prosperity, and freedom for all. We are proud of the fact that 1 million Jewish soldiers in all the Allied armies on land, in air, and the sea, and especially Jewish units from the Jewish homeland Palestine and the Jewish brigade, fought under the Jewish flag the battle of world liberty. But we Jews cannot rejoice like other people. It is now great hour of sorrow of Jewish sorrow. You heard here the tales from eyewitnesses, the few remnants who escaped the total slaughter of great Jewish community, cold blood, men, women, and children throughout Europe. We were proud to hear that a few Jewish boys and girls without weapons and without help dared to stand up against the Nazis in a desperate fight. But we are facing the fact that more than a third of the entire Jewish people perished in this war. And they perished for one cause only. We are the only people in the world homeless and stateless. And now when an attempt is made after the Second World War to have a new world with justice for all, the 6 million slaughtered Jews and the Jewish martyred people throughout history appeals to the conscience of humanity that at last justice should be done also to the Jewish people, and because of our age-long suffering, our homelessness and statelessness should be removed, and our ancient homeland, which we began to rebuild in the last 60 years, should be by common consent of the United Nations be re-established as a free Jewish commonwealth, which will take part in the rebuilding of the world, and a free and independent Jewish people restored to its historic heritage in the land of Israel should take its rightful place as an equal in the family of nations in the attempt to recreate a new world of order and justice and equality and security. תחזינו עינינו ושוב ישראל לציון.
Emergency Conference of the World Jewish Congress to order. And the conference will begin with the singing as we arise of the Star-Spangled Banner, and after that Hatikvah by the Jew to himself and to the world, to insist upon a free and democratic Jewish national home. The Christian world owes to the Jew reparation for all the centuries of wrong and hurt and humiliation, reparation for the awful and tragic Hitler years. That reparation will be afforded the Jew. The Jew has taken his full part in the waging of the war and the winning of the war. The Jew has been the earliest and the greatest sufferer under the Hitler regime. A free and democratic Jewish commonwealth in Eretz Israel, of Eretz Israel, means nothing more than justice to the Jew, freedom for the Jew, equality of the Jewish people with all the free peoples of earth. There's something that I had thought about saying about the unhappy thing that occurred in Cairo not long ago. I've only this to say. The Jews of Palestine best know and have given us reason to believe, I mean the whole issue, excepting for a handful of men, that they fully understand the Jewish terrorism, the policy and the work of a handful of misguided youth must be uprooted at once. This is no time for populistic argumentation about the remoter causes of violence, the Havlaga, or high self-restraint, to which the Jewish population of Palestine rose in the midst of unprovoked Arab disorders, must once again and at once become the rule and the discipline of the issue. The question is not whether terrorism can ultimately prevail. The fact is, if Jews are to be worthy of their traditions, if Jews are to be equal to themselves at their highest, if the moral law is to mean something for the Jewish people, even though it means little or nothing for other peoples, terrorism must go on a handful of confused defenders of terrorism, must not be permitted to stand in the way of the extirpation of that which can bring no advantage in itself, and apart from every political consequence, is certain to bring infinite woe to the soul of the Jewish people. This is more than a tribune of ceaseless protest against hurt and wound and contumely and outrage meted to Jews and ancient people. The World Jewish Congress is a council chamber in which you people at its highest. Thus will we witness a rebirth of the Jewish people, leagued together and striving mightily through the feeling, especially in Eretz Israel. The letter ends with the prayer, may God grant you, all of the World Jewish Congress, the necessary strength, reciting that sacred benediction of Shechionu. But how can we? Too many of our beloved cannot recite it, and therefore we can. Dr. Nahum Goldman.
Was at the first wasn't a necessity by natural or historical laws. If the leaders of the democratic peoples of the last decade would have had just a little bit more of common sense, and what was more important, just a little bit more of moral courage and sense of solidarity, this Second World War, with its tragedy for all the peoples involved in it, would have been quite unnecessary and easily, I mean what I say, easily avoidable. If there was ever a generation in history or a period in history where the law in which we Jews have always believed that there is such a thing as moral law in the world, and that the violation of the most elementary bases of moral law and responsibility, that the Palestinians were responsible, then our generation is a living proof for the existence of this historical law. And my friends, what is true? It was set aside for such an emergency. Jewish Palestine was close to large Jewish immigration. Therefore I say, for the leaders of the democratic nations just to reject all responsibility is too simple a thing for us to allow to remain as it is. The real moral responsibility belongs there, because here are the peoples and here are the leaders who, after all, are leaders of great democratic peoples with a sense of duty, with the recognition and the respect of moral laws and of moral rules. And this is the address for our complaints and for our demands. Hitlerism has just to be destroyed and to be wiped out like a mad dog. But the address for our moral demands is the address of the democratic nations of today. We ask that this restoration be done in a retroactive way. We know very well that the 10 years of the Hitler decade cannot be wiped out from the history of our generation. And we and the non-Jewish world, for decades and decades, will have still to suffer from the result of this barbaric decade. But at least sympathy, this is a very loose word for it, will do everything in its power to strengthen all the tendencies within European Jewry to go to Palestine and start a new life in a country of their own, and strengthen and enable and increase the facilities, technical, political, financial, economical facilities which have to be granted by the United Nations in order to enable to a maximum number of European Jews to start a new life in Palestine. But on the other hand, we have never taken the view of forced evacuation of Jews. There are many Jews who will remain in certain countries in Europe, and they have a right to be restored to their positions, that their property be restituted. If they are collective groups, they have a right to rebuild a certain collective life. Certainly we will not begin artificially to rebuild Telj and Volozhin. The Gerer Rebbe is in Palestine. It's in Palestine where he should remain. I'm happy to know that he wants to remain there. This is all evident and self-evident. But Jews in countries wherever they live have a right to live as equal human beings and as citizens in full enjoyment of the rights. And if there is a sufficient number of them who needs a school, who needs a synagogue, who needs some collective institution, certainly Zionists will not